Hello and welcome to In the Spotlight with Quocirca, the definitive podcast on digital disruption in the print industry. I'm Louella Fernandes, CEO of Quocirca, and we're pleased to be celebrating 5 years of the podcast and have some great guests lined up in the series. Today, I'm joined by Vasco Falcão, Head of Digital Workplace in Europe for Konica Minolta, and we will be discussing the theme of moving from AI hype to operational value. So welcome to the show, Vasco. Could you tell us a bit about your career history and your role at Konica Minolta?
My actual role, I'm head of the digital workplace and digital transformation across Europe. My career has been focused on leadership, transformation, and technology. I started in finance and consulting. This gave me a strong foundation in operational discipline and strategic thinking. But over the past 2 decades at Konica Minolta, I've had the opportunity to lead different phases of the transformation of our organization. So from the traditional print services to digital workplace solutions, the managed content services, and lately AI enabled business models. So my focus today is to help organizations to focus on how they organize work, combining the intelligent information management that I lead in Europe, automation, analytics, and AI, always focus on business impact. So beyond my executive role, I'm also involved in industry associations, in educational initiatives. I really believe that leadership today, it's about learning and responsible innovation. So I keep dedicating also my time to those tasks.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think we're going to have a really great conversation, and I know you've got a brilliant perspective on the application of AI throughout the business. So what we're really seeing at the moment is AI is present everywhere, and some of our research shows that AI reality isn't really matching AI ambition for various reasons. So we hear from many companies that they may be unsure what AI actually brings to them in concrete terms. How do you perceive this situation?
Okay, it's a difficult question to start with, but sitting in a company like Konica Minolta with more than 150 years, I think I have a good knowledge base to understand what is going on. Looking back to our organization and looking back to the Industrial Revolution when we were still here, we saw a lot of mechanized work being changed because we start using steam power. At that time, machines multiplied the capacity of humans. So at that time, productivity exploded. So when those kind of things happen, big disruptions happen. So job changes, industries disappear, but also new ones emerge. So during the revolution that we had more recently, the digital one, the same thing happened with information. So computers and internet did come, but they did not replace human thinking. They just accelerated the way we communicate and the access to the information. So that revolution also made a big disruption. For example, it created new business models. And right now, new disruption is expected, or we are living a new disruption. So in Japan, they say if you fail, it's because you fail to plan. And I think what we really need to do is to prepare for what is coming. And I think we need to anticipate some of the gaps that we are facing today. So there are translation gaps, there are process gaps, and there are expectation gaps that need to be understood before the companies move forward in their digital transformation and utilizing the power of this AI capacity.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with, as you say, with every technology revolution that we've seen over the many decades before, there's always a fear of change, and there's always concerns around any new disruption. And I think AI now very much the genie is out of the bottle, and it's really important that organizations prepare and also address some of the concerns and risks around AI as well. So picking up on that, really, what we've heard, over the past few years is that there is this concern that AI will replace jobs. I've heard it several times before, people saying, actually, AI won't replace your job. It will be somebody using AI that will replace your job. And I think AI is very much now that productivity tool, that assistant that we're all using in both our personal and professional lives. How do you see this? Do you think AI will replace jobs, or does it really have that opportunity to support their jobs rather than replace them?
In fact, this is a structural shift, but the history also tells us that this will not eliminate human relevance, but it will redefine it. So in the end of the day, when we look again to history, during the Industrial Revolution, humans moved from labor to supervision, to engineering, and to design. When we look more recently to the Digital Revolution, using that reference again, we moved from paperwork analysis to strategy and innovation. And all the speed of innovation that we had in recent years, I think was helped by that focus of the humans in these new tasks. And today, we see many people using AI, and what we see is that they are moving from execution to judgment. So I really think that AI will help people to overcome some of the existing challenges of the world. So when we look to longevity, or when we look to aging society, those are two challenges that are hitting very hard, for example, Europe. And I would say that this superpower, that is AI, will help us to overcome those challenges. Just look to the question of number of doctors that we have available for the quantity of population that we have. We go across Europe, and we see in many countries that the numbers of needed doctors are not enough for the requests that our national healthcare systems require. If we go a little bit more far away from Europe, if we go to Africa, the World Health Organization recommends 10 doctors for every 10,000 people. In average, they have 2.6. So how can we overcome this challenge, for example, in Africa? And the same thing with the aging of the population. The people that are being born today will live in average more than 100 years. So their life expectancy will be more than 100 years. Of course, they will not go out of the labor market like many of us will go early in our age. They will go much late. So when you are 75 and you still need to work, you need some support. You have a lot of competences, but you also miss some of them. And I think AI here can be a good help, can be the superpower that people will need to keep giving back to society the knowledge they accumulated while they still feel useful and they can contribute to their labor market.
Yes, I really like that metaphor really around AI being a superpower. I think, as you mentioned, it's very much around its potential to manage the challenges of a rapidly aging population, and some of those societies you mentioned, the aging population is going to need more support, and it's also going to create these labour shortages. So I think it's a really positive influence on helping that and the healthcare systems that need to support that aging society as well. So absolutely, it's interesting that AI can have obviously positives and negatives, but I think the positives are starting to outweigh some of the negatives. And actually, if we discuss some of those negatives now around trust, data and regulation, we're seeing more and more people within organizations as well as consumers using freely available AI tools. And I guess this is creating this kind of shadow use of AI in organizations that can be quite difficult to control, especially where confidential or sensitive data is being used on consumer-based AI tools. Where do you see the difference between consumer AI and AI in a corporate context, and what are some of the opportunities as well as challenges of that type of usage?
When I talk about this topic, I always remember the old times of internet coming to the offices, and many companies forbidden users to use internet in their workplace because it was disturbing. It was giving access to things that they were not supposed to do at work. And I think here we are facing the same or similar challenge, I would say. So consumer AI is designed for our convenience. So there is a very low barrier for entry, like the internet in the beginning. And of course, we are not measuring the risks of using it. I just look to my children using internet, and they don't care. So they just use it in a very informal way. And that is, of course, something that I believe that when they go to the work environment, they want to take that with them. And myself, I also use it in my informal time. And of course, when I want to take it to the internal resources of Konica Minolta, I need to think how to do it. Of course, when I'm thinking about the company usage, I want to use AI to scale my business, to compete better. And so this difference is enormous. And it's creating tension because individuals want to use AI in the same way, both at home and at the office, or when they are using it in their phone or in their PC, they don't care for what usage they are doing it. And so I think the big challenge here comes from governance of the data. So in our personal use of AI, we are using open internet models. In the corporate world, we are using strict data governance sources like our ERPs, our BI tools, and our CRMs. So if we mix both, we might incur in many risks. So just imagine employees pasting AI so the information they are looking for in AI tools. For example, they post customer data, financial forecasts, contracts, strategic plans. Just imagine the risks. So I think recently EU created this AI Act. That is an important framework for us. I think it will not slow down innovation, but will provide orientation. So my recommendation is for the companies, for the people to read, to go through this document, because it's an important one that it's putting some order, I would say. Of course, at the same time, companies need to educate their workforces about the compliance, the secure way of using AI, and I think also with time there will be an opportunity for us to reduce the friction, because personal use will be more on the form of AI assistance to help us to do specific tasks. And I think companies, what we are doing and what we see the evolution is going in what direction the evolution of implementing AI in companies is going is integrating AI into the core systems and processes. So that's a way to somehow mitigate the risk, because instead of making a picture of the result of an extraction of the ERP and posting it to ChatGPT to ask, what should I do? I think this will be by default inside the ERP. And when you are using the ERP, you will not have to take a picture or make an extraction of data from the ERP and ask to outside tool, what should I do in these circumstances? But the ERP itself will give you the advice. Will make an interpretation of the data that he is seeing, and he will say, okay, be careful here. You should not pay this invoice because there is a mistake. Instead of I take a picture of the invoice, I post it in a free internet AI tool, and he will give me the information. But at the same time, I'm spreading information from my company to others. So I think this will be this tension will come from these different usages of AI, either personally or then integrated in the company's systems, and people will just use AI without knowing. And so that friction will be reduced.
Yes, it's very much about governance, as you say, and actually in Quocirca's Future of Work study, we looked at the adoption of AI, and the top driver for AI is clearly improved productivity and efficiency, and but also the top barrier was around data security, privacy, and also the sense that the reliability of the output from AI can not always be relied on. So I think it's really important to have that foundation.
It's exactly what you are saying. The productivity, for example, just imagine how not productive is to copy a document, put it in ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, wait for an answer, then copy the answer, put it back to whatever system you want, versus it's already integrated in your systems, and you don't need to do that kind of operation. Just take the example of a simple email. Many people today are, okay, help me out to reply to this email by copying the email to ChatGPT, getting an answer, putting it back to their email. That's not productive. It's too many clicks if we want to think it like that. Just imagine that there is a wrap up of the thread of emails that you received, and there is advice how to answer without any clicks, without copy pasting, and so on. So that's again the integration into the company's systems that I think will happen, and will of course reduce a lot this friction that will happen if that merge is not done quickly.
So the goal is ultimately frictionless AI, as you've explained, and also the need to have these programs in place to educate employees on how to use AI. So just switching gears a bit in terms of looking at sustainability, because I think with AI, it really presents a dual impact on sustainability. So on one side, it offers powerful tools for potentially environmental monitoring, energy optimization, and so on. But at the same time, it can have this huge energy consumption, water usage for cooling, electronic waste from hardware, and so on. And I think it's creating this real sustainability paradox. What role do you think AI has to play here from Konica Minolta's point of view?
It is a very important point for us, since we are a company focused on achieving carbon neutrality. When we look to the challenge of the sustainability, we believe that we should focus our attention on the source of energy that is used by AI. So to power all this infrastructure, we need electricity. And if we look to the source where that electricity is produced today across the world, majority of the production of electricity is still done using coal. Even recently, we heard the president of US announcing that they will even increase their usage of this source. So today, if we look to the production of energy, only 30% is coming from renewable sources. So that is the transition that we need to make. Is we need to source better. In our case, that's what we are doing for all our production. It's to source from renewable power sources, and in order to do the same for AI, we need to get the data centers connected to these renewable power sources. Also, we need to improve, as you said, the cooling systems. And I'm one of those that believe that AI will help us to solve this problem, because it will make more efficient processes. It will help us to save energy, deciding when to use the best source of energy. And I think we'll also accelerate R&D, and it's accelerating R&D in some of the investigation that is being done in order to store the renewable sources. Because one of the big challenges of the renewable sources, it's that we don't have enough capacity today to store the energy. So I think AI can be an accelerator for us to use resources in a more selective way.
I think that's really useful to understand that Konica Minolta's position in terms of the sustainability aspect. And in terms of how Konica Minolta's AI approach is structured. What would you say are the key areas that it's focused on, and how would it approach this in terms of how it's differentiating from others in this industry? Because there's so many different, approaches to AI in the office equipment industry, but also different approaches to deploying AI as well. So yeah, be curious in terms of what Konica Minolta is doing there.
Yeah, first thing is we don't apply AI to everything that moves because there is a marketing trend of putting AI in front of everything. So I think the decisive factor for us is is the business model around AI. It's not the tech model that we are using. So because when we look to projects that fail, they don't fail because technology is not powerful enough. They fail because we are not anchored to real economic outcomes. So what we try to do and how we see things is many companies are making experiments, are piloting, are showcasing, but they are not integrating. So again, coming back to the example I gave you before, that we need to integrate this into the way we do things. That's what we really believe. So AI only becomes transformative when it moves from being a tool that people use occasion and sometimes and becomes part of the work they really do. So it should not be used occasionally, but it should be part of the work that people do. So I give you already the simple example of copying emails from AI tool to draft. And I can give you examples of how this is integrated. For example, we have a tool where AI is integrated into the MS system, and this tool, it's giving you already alerts because it's reading the contracts. It's giving you alerts about when the contract is expiring, if there are risks identified. So the question that we should make is it the AI embedded into your core workflow? Is it really embedded in something that affects your revenue, your costs, your speed? Is it someone accountable for that impact? Because if we don't have AI integrated in your workflows, adoption will fade. If you don't have KPIs, you will lose the funding for the projects. And if leadership is not aware, they will stop the project. So so we cannot ask anymore how smart is the AI model. So it's really important to ask, how can I change my business using AI? What kind of economics are behind of the users of this? And so it's always about operational integration. And if you integrate, you separate what I called AI theater from AI transformation. Okay? So you really need to integrate in your operational work. Otherwise, it's just a theater.
And in terms of the area of print services and document management, how are Konica Minolta using AI to automate workflow? And also a second follow-on question from that is around print and AI. How is Konica Minolta applying print AI to print? Because I think it's kind of moved beyond the predictive service and maintenance to a lot more sophisticated applications of AI. So yeah, curious as to what Konica Minolta is doing, both on the workflow side and on the hardware side.
Our approach is always very pragmatic, as I tried to explain. We do not start with technology, even though we are a technology company, but we always start with the customers and the concrete working day. So either if it's printing or if it's in digital. I always say digital transformation into 3 dimensions. And that's the way we look at it. So we always look how we transform our internal processes. So customer internal processes using technology. So that's a dimension, I would say, internal dimension of the transformation, and how we use digital technologies to capture more value when we are working with our customers. For example, if you are a customer, how you can use these technologies to sell more, to serve better your customers, to make more profit. And then can be applied to hardware, can be applied to services. So, and the third dimension, it's how we train our internal staff to use these tools to improve how they support our customers. Coming to the print, I think very important topic is today print is more data driven than the people think. So AI, for example, elevated the printing device maybe to its version 3.0, and coming from commodity hardware to an intelligent workflow gateway. Many times in our presentations, in my presentations, I use the printer as a gateway because it really enables real-time data extraction. So when you look to AI, we are doing intelligent OCR, entity extraction, we are doing automatic classification, context-aware routing. So instead of scan, email, manual processing, we are having scan AI classification, ER posting, approval workflow. So the device becomes the first step in an autonomous process. So it's really a big change, and the printing device sits in the intersection of the digital and the physical world. And it allows magic because it allows the document to be printed again if needed, because sometimes it's more productive to print it again and to take notes and then digitalize it again. So in other words, AI is not improving printing. I think it's repositioning printing as a part of the digital transformation. So if you look to more details, maybe we can talk about that. There are a lot of technologies that are being used to help us to make the device more intelligent. We talked about the consumption of energy. Our devices, they have time-based shutdowns with tracking functionality. At the same time, we can use AI to reduce the the paper we are using, detecting non-image areas, not printing in blank pages. This saves toner, saves paper, saves energy, and in the most important thing, helps users in their daily life. So in the output device, the devices can see if there is humidity, can understand if there are temperature fluctuations, and the sensors can detect the paper that is being used. So this again reduces misprints, ensures high quality in the printing, and the same thing with avoiding interruptions. When we look to predictive maintenance at the service level, because many times this is transparent to our customers, but our devices are connected to our optimized print services. So we can precisely predict when consumables are needed, when spare parts are required. And this enables us to just in time provide toner, paper, and spare parts and control all that with no touch from our customers. So that's of course having a huge impact in the downtime of the services and improving the productivity of our customers because they don't need to make unnecessary service calls. And this also allows us to have very high first-time fixed rates that, of course, in the end of the day, are felt by our customers. So I would say that print became more efficient, more sustainable, more predictable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think given the market and hardware commoditization, there's always been innovation around software and services, but I think AI can actually really help drive more hardware innovation. And as you say, it's very much about rethinking the MFP or the traditional print device as an intelligent, data-driven component of the digital workplace. And this hardware-based embedded AI is going to become increasingly important. So it's really great to hear what Konica Minolta are doing in that respect. In terms of understanding a bit more about scan and capture, because what we're seeing is obviously as print volumes are flat to declining, We're also seeing an increase in scan volumes and AI-enabled capture. Could you explain very briefly what Konica Minolta offers in terms of that information management that's AI-enabled?
As you said, it looks like volumes are dropping, but documents are not disappearing. Documents are being replicated at the pace that we never saw before. So AI, it's most directly impacting documents and workflow in this area of the organization. So invoices, contracts, HR files, compliance records, they still remain the backbone of operations of our customers. So they keep existing, but we now handle this information, I would say, in a more intelligent way. So decisions are more intelligent. So with solutions like WayDoc files or Document Navigator that are in our tech stack, and we have more because many times we adjust the stack of technology to the customer needs, we move beyond simply storing documents because AI makes their content more operational. So, for example, when you go through these solutions, for example, an employee does not have to search across different drivers for comparing the multiple PDFs that he digitalized. They can just ask with natural language, show me all the contracts with renewal clauses expiring in the next 3 months, or summarize the obligations and penalties of this agreement. So compare these documents and look for the differences. And building on that, we can then focus on automation. So if we are able to organize and if we are able to have this layer of documents covered by these kind of solutions, then we can go to more, I would say, dedicated services that can shift the work from the employees to more automation. So we have, for example, Contract AI or Invoice AI that were internally developed by Konica Minolta that they can automate the processes. So, for example, if you are not a legal expert, I can help you becoming a legal expert without going through your legal colleague and maybe reducing the time you spend from him before going there with the real questions that you need for your help. So this allows the decision makers to respond faster and involve the legal teams only when it's really needed. And with Invoice AI, we transform finance operations by, for example, automating data capture, matching the invoices for the purchase orders, and identifying duplicates, flagging whenever there is a problem. And of course, that reduces a lot the tasks that the people are doing around this. So all these solutions are integrated into the MFP because many times you just want to give a click and then you want this to happen, and also integrated to the different DMS solutions that we sell. So again, what we want is these AI tools that we are designing for our customers to be operated inside the workflows that the people already use without creating parallel systems. So because that's what reduces, as we talked before, the friction. Most people, when we talk about this AI document and workflow management, they think about just contracts and invoices, like I gave the examples. But there are many other examples that I can give in order to exemplify what we can do with integration with ERPs, with CRMs, and so on. So in HR, for example, AI can extract data from the employees, can use it for renewal of the training, can use it for renewal of some documents that are mandatory for you to have updated from employees, can help you in doing a good onboarding of the employees. So even when you want to turn information into statistics, you can use also this active intelligence to support you. So it's basically transforming document management. We had a file, and the file was well organized, and we changed from that perspective to decision support. Instead of searching through folders, people interact with information, and that is a huge jump. Interacting with information, it's something that we were not used to do in such an easy way, and that is something that we will all benefit.
Yes, and I've just really wanted to touch on, before we close, some of the data analytics capabilities, because as you mentioned, data quality and data governance are key to improved business outcomes from AI. And I know Konica Minolta has something called Insights AI and ESG AI, and I think it's definitely worth touching on those, because many viewers and listeners may not be aware of those capabilities from Konica Minolta.
Yeah, in fact, in my past life, I was CFO, and I was working a lot with analytics, and always the analysis was retrospective. So we look to dashboards, we review last month KPIs, and then discuss what to do. That is, I would say, still a lot as is in many companies, and that was my past working for consulting auditing company. Today, AI shifts that dynamic from that kind of descriptive way of doing things to predictive, and in some cases even I would say we prescribe with AI, and that is really something that is a big change. And when we look to the AI data analytics that Konica Minolta is using, we see three advantages. We see the simplicity, and I give you an example of a tool that is Insights AI. So instead of working with the dashboards, the Excel that we are all used to work, the decision maker can simply ask questions in natural language. So you don't need to be the expert. You just go to the tool and you just ask, how was our revenue with customer X, and how was the development in the last quarter, which products are currently profitable, and that is so easy to use that anyone without almost training can just get there and get the information. Okay, so imagine the acceleration of adoption of these kind of tools can have in a company. Then a second say advantage, it's the early detection of problems and foresight. I already gave the example before of flagging a problem. We have another agent called the ESG AI that, for example, captures and analyzes all the information regarding with CO2 emissions, energy consumption, and all the other ESG metrics. And by monitoring this continuously, the company can take decisions before the month end or the quarter end. Because what we are used is, we take action after we see the month end. In this case, we can get information almost every day, and we can anticipate the problems and can fix them before the month end or the quarter end and take action. Last but not least, it has to be, as I said before, integrated with the operational work. So the only way to have success, it's to trigger an action and start a follow-up before the real problem occurs. So if we do these three steps, I would say AI can become an active partner for management decisions, without having the traditional BI complexity and having the long projects that sometimes make companies give up from implementing this into their daily life.
It's been really great to understand more about what Konica Minolta are doing, because I think it's really provided a comprehensive overview of how deep Konica Minolta is in AI across its hardware, software, and services. And some of those applications you mentioned, particularly around capture-enabled AI and contract and invoice AI plus Insights AI, I think are really powerful and sophisticated tools. So it's been great, as I say, to understand more about the digital workplace, which is already enabled by AI. In conclusion, what would you say are the main takeaways? Because we've covered everything from governance to sustainability to print and capture. What would you say are the most important takeaways for where AI in the digital workplace is heading?
In normal conditions, I would ask AI to make the wrap up. And in this case, I will do it by myself. I would say four takeaways that we can apply. In the beginning, I tried to explain that we should stop experimentation. It's about integration. So the real value comes from not isolated pilots and fancy demos. It comes from putting AI into your core workflows. Of course, if it's a broken workflow, we should fix it before, we should simplify it before, but then it should be really not a standalone thing. It should be part of your way of doing things. Also should be connected to your ERP systems, because AI only creates impact when it changes how we work. So if not, it's just another tool that we have there standalone. I would say second thing is, we talked about it. It will not replace people. I think it will improve the quality of life of people in the office environment. So it reduces a lot of friction in some of the tasks that are sometimes boring for humans. So less searching for a document, less manual steps, less errors, faster decisions. So again, the companies that can apply AI to this repetitive cognitive work and some decision bottlenecks, and then of course we'll be able to measure the return on investment. So I think people should not be afraid. People should use it and should enjoy it, because it will extend their natural working life and their capacities during much more time than we thought when we had to make transition in our work, or when we need to work in different tasks that different from the ones that we were originally trained for. Also, governance and responsibility are not optimal. We are doing work in progress. As I told, and I think that's an important thing I want to refer again, it's AI will move from just being a convenience tool to being an integrated, transparent tool. So I would say that companies will have to trust, because the only way to be really a competitive differentiator if companies trust AI. If they don't trust, it won't be a competitive differentiator. And I would say the last thing, AI will not sit as a separate, it will be embedded everywhere. I think we will stop using AI on a conscient way. It will be natural. Like when I was explaining that with natural language, I'm interfacing with AI, it will be something not like today that we are navigating through systems. Employees will just ask questions and will receive structured contextual answers. The only thing that maybe some people will not like is that AI will become increasingly autonomous and will take some micro decisions. But that's something that I'm looking forward to see. Looking to something taking autonomous decisions, it will be interesting for us to be the supervisors.
I think that's a really important summary, and just to pick up on that agentic AI, I think that's still very much emerging, and there are security risks obviously with that. But I think, as you say, AI is here and now. It's not going anywhere, and organizations really need to be prepared to use it and trust it to drive workplace and workforce efficiency and competitive advantage. Otherwise, they may well get left behind. So, I really want to thank you again, Vasco, for taking the time to join me today. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
So thank you for joining today's episode of In the Spotlight with Quocirca. For more information, please visit quocirca.com and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.